Coogs house. Yes, Houston fell over the weekend 35-11 to Texas Tech and is apparently therefore just out of the Big 12. Just everyone just thinks that's how it works. It's an overreaction Monday, folks. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Coogs your first listen of the day. Be sure to make your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Coogs. We're joining the conversation, but you don't know what to say. Tell us what the most ridiculous thing you heard in the aftermath of Houston's butt whooping over the weekend was. I think that's the PG way to say that. It's butt whooping. Houston falls to Texas Tech 35-11. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, where Houston's actually a double-digit favorite going into next weekend. But more on that fun later. We're going to get some overreactions today. Now, I want to talk about Houston in the Big 12, Houston at quarterback, and Houston's defense over the course of this overreaction. Those are my three segments. I will say, though, I came with this concept actually driving back after the game over the weekend, and I full in like transparency reflect on my own show and like what I do, what I don't do, whatever. I kind of feel like my post games after losses are not the best work, and it's mostly because, listen, I get more sad than mad after losses, especially like that over the weekend, right? And like I think sad podcasting is probably not the way to go. It's not what people like to hear, but mad podcasting, well, there's maybe something to that. And I think things that make me mad are really, really bad takes, these overreactions to singular sporting events. So overreaction number one we're reacting to here that I just think is a little outrageous. But the first overreaction is that Houston is too far away to compete in the Big 12, and they're out of their element in this league. And look, Texas Tech is very talented. That was on showcase Saturday night, right? Texas Tech comes off of that win, is now inside of the top 10 in the AP poll. And the Big 12, while there's plenty of anti-Big 12 sentiment in that AP poll, has three other teams all after the number 18 in that AP poll. That's a quarter of the league. And when you factor in a couple other teams that are receiving votes in there as well, in Utah and Cincinnati, and TCU. I guess TCU as well. So that's 7 of the 15 teams that are in the conference that are receiving votes in the AP poll, and 4 of them made the top 25. You only end up playing 2 more of those teams this season. The way the schedule worked out in the Big 12, you play Arizona State, currently ranked 21st. They have a couple close wins over teams you're going to see later this year in Baylor and TCU. Arizona State is certainly a good team and program. They obviously won the conference last year, played that college football playoff game, and they took Texas down to the wire. And if a call goes here or there differently, they might have won that one. We've heard that story about playing Texas before, though. I feel mostly, though, like Arizona State's a team that won this conference last year and then won a bunch of close games along the way. Did not win all of their games along the way, I would point out. They won a couple close games along the way, and they lost their best player to the NFL. Their best player from last year now plays the New York Giants, notably a pro football team. And I look at this and I think, well, what's the big deal with them? So Sam Levitt is talented. They've got a top 5 pick at wide receiver. Yes, but we've also seen how a top 5 pick at wide receiver on its own doesn't do much. It's hard to impact a football game the same way if you're just the one wide receiver, right? And if you're just the quarterback, Sam Levitt benefited a lot last year from that run game, and they're having some nip and tuck kind of games in this year. And then, played awful against Mississippi State, who I usually reference as a team that represents how bad the SEC can be. And that's just what Arizona State is right now. Other team you play in that receiving votes portion is TCU, and I think TCU will probably be ranked by the time you play them later this year because enough of those top 25 teams have to play each other, and there's to be some cannibalization inside of that. But TCU's got a stout run defense. They're much better this year than they were a year ago. They're not quite 2 years ago, where they won the whole conference, and or was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where they won the whole conference, then went off to Georgia, the championship game, got blown out by Georgia. They're not quite that good. But they are a good defense. They're nowhere near the defensive line. Good run stopping defensive line. Nowhere near the pass rushing defensive line you just played against. That was a a real big issue in this game. We'll talk about in the second segment, I'm sure. As far as the rest of the conference goes, you literally opened up as a double-digit favorite against Oklahoma State this week. This week, you're already opening up as a double-digit favorite on the road in Stillwater. Now, does Stillwater have their problems? Sure. Are they a bona fide Big 12 team that's been here 30 years longer than you? Yes. Yes, they are, actually. And that 30-year gap is there. You see it when Houston plays Texas Tech. 30 years of fundraising and donations and the TV dollars and the kinds of things. Not to mention, like, the donor class that is that generation of lost fans Houston had from those dark times of post Southwest Conference sports, right? Those fans, those college students and fans you built in that era, are now not donating because of the lost years there, so to speak, right? Whereas at other Big 12 schools, they're donating. Now, I say all that to say, with Houston being a double-digit point favorite this week, I don't know that necessarily means Houston's heading to Arlington. I do think, though, that you've got a plenty good chance to win a lot of Big 12 games left. You're 4-1 on the season. That means 2 more wins and you're in the bowls. And I think you get more than that, if I'm being quite frank with you. Now, I said it post game, say it again. I said it post game, and I'll say it again right here. The biggest deal in December, when we're looking back at the season, or January, whenever it's over, the biggest thing will be when we look back at this season and this loss will be what comes after it. Not what this one loss counts as or what this one loss means on the season. You're 4-1. And as thorough as that drumming was, it's just one loss. Do you sulk on that one loss for a week, have a bad week, and end up getting beat a second time, kind of functionally losing to Tech twice by losing to Oklahoma State next week because you have a bad week? That would be a bigger problem. Do you start seeing cracks and creaks and crevices in the culture you've built up with Willie Fritz for a year and a half now, and ultimately have some like bad stuff going on behind the scenes and crumbling from the inside, right? That would be a problem. This is the first time this year's team has lost at all, right? And only 2 or 3 games in the 8 losses last year that were anything near something like this. And for what it's worth, after being beaten thoroughly a year ago, 42-14 by Kansas at Kansas, which was not really at Kansas, but at Kansas City, you turn around in the next 2 weeks and beat Utah and Kansas State back to back, right? And so I think I've got confidence in Fritz and the culture they've built in responding. And we just haven't had to see this year's team do that yet. And look, full disclosure, we don't know enough about kind of Weigman's injury from the logistical X's and O's and all schematic kind of side of the bouncing back after the weekend. But from a mentality, a getting ready to play, a Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's kind of feel for getting ready for next weekend, I'm confident that Fritz will have guys ready to go again. And I think acting like a singular thorough loss somehow means you're outclassed in the Big 12 is nonsense. You lost by the same margin in this one as Utah did in the other Big 12 win that Texas Tech has. And your quarterback actually got hurt. You didn't just say it after the game, right? And I know that the game wasn't exactly going great when Conner Weigman was in the game either. There were plenty of offensive struggles. But you were as competitive as Utah, and there are people voting them in the top 25. Right? I mean, take that as you want. I still think Houston's a great football team and a much improved football team, and a football team that's going to shock people throughout the season. I will point out that I said it before this Tech game, thinking Tech might be one. I'll say it again. Houston's going to beat teams they're not supposed to this year, whether that's a Vegas-favored Arizona State or a TCU or whomever, right? I think Houston's going to upset someone they're not supposed to upset, according to Vegas, later this season. Just didn't happen on Saturday. Houston just got beaten beat down on Saturday, right? And one other big overreaction that I want to address in the next segment is this thought that Houston might have a quarterback issue. You heard that yet? Let's talk about what it means in just 1 second. But first, today's show is brought to you by our buddies at Peloton, because Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Shred Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's the most advanced piece of equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move when you're running, lifting, or cross training with your favorite instructor. This training is reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools to help you stay motivated, and reach peak performance. Listen, we got the bike a long time ago, pandemic era, working out, etc. I got a little burnt out on it. It's very dated. Same thing. Peloton Tread Plus is a whole different system, whole different way to work out. Offers all kinds of swivel screen, going back and forth between lifting and running, and keeps you on your toes. Personalized classes, all that kind of. It's a whole different ballgame, right? So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Locked on Coogs, Parker Ainsworth here, breaking down all things Houston Cougars, including some overreactions I'm sure you're hearing on this fine start of the week coming off of Houston's drumming over the weekend. Now, people are broadly saying, after the offense struggled, that Houston's got a quarterback issue. And it's really simple, I think, to put all of the offense on one player, good or bad. The offense is humming. The quarterback's the best quarterback in America. If the offense is not, then he's the worst. And frankly, you can see people do that with wins and losses, and that has always irked me. Wins are not a quarterback stat. Wins are barely really a pitcher stat. I mean, the way you qualify for one as a pitcher is not. Anyway, neither here nor there. And look, Conner Weigman made plenty of mistakes, no doubt about it. And Chris Chameleon came in after his injury. And Zion made a couple plays early as soon as he came in. And it made you think, okay, you hit Amari Thomas from the middle against cover zero. That goes off for a big score. Zion can run a little bit, and so he's getting some yards that Conner was unable to escape from guys in, right? Maybe that's a good thing. And I truthfully, if you ask me in a moment of honesty, I wonder, would Zion have had more success if he didn't play the final few minutes of the first half, but came in after halftime, right? I think Sheil Wood, who has seen Zion Chris up close and in person as the Houston defense coordinator a year ago, went into halftime and said, here's what we're going to do, folks, and just laid it out for him, right? I mean, he had the time to. Had this happened at the start of the third quarter, I think they would have been caught just as off guard and probably would have still loaded the box like they did for the Amari Thomas touchdown. And you might have seen a different, or maybe a few different series, right? Like that could have caught people a little bit more off guard. I don't think that means that there's a real quarterback drama. Conner Weigman is the guy. It's a different offense with him in the game. It opens up different options. But Houston, with him, without him, with anyone at quarterback, was not going to have an effective offensive game plan in this one. They were outmatched at the point of attack at a number of different positions. The offense was unable to stay on the field for get any real rhythm for any quarterback with anything going. And I think what stands out to me is a team that blitzes at one of the lowest rates in all of Power 4 college football in Texas Tech. Now, the rate, I don't know the exact number after the Houston game, but it was fifth lowest in Power 4 football going into this game. Was able to pressure Houston on 65.5% of passes. That means, on rounding up to 66, 2/3 of all pass attempts Houston had a sack, a hit, or a hurry on them. 2/3. And that's a team that doesn't blitz. That's just how dominant the pass rush was out of Texas Tech on Saturday. I don't care if you put Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, I don't care who you put back there. Michael Vick, they're still running around for life, right? Like, it doesn't seem to matter. That was going to be too big an issue for any quarterback back there in that one. Now, with Chris Chameleon, if Conner Weigman's injury, we may find out early this week, we may find out late this week when injury reports come out. If Conner Weigman's out this week, right? Chris Chameleon is able to win Big 12 games. He won 3 last year. He can do it when his defense keeps the scoring low. He's able to be a true dual threat guy, and you can involve him in the run game, spend a lot of clock, shorten the game, right? You were a double-digit favorite this week, and week after that, we'll see what things look like with Arizona. But Arizona's this year not as good as they were last year, and frankly, while you laid an egg a little bit last year at their place, they're coming to you this year, right? We just saw how loud TDs you can get. There are lots of fans screaming for Austin Carlisle's turn as well. And I don't want to like dismiss that as far as these takes go, where it's in here on Overreaction Monday. But I do want to give my 2 cents there. Austin Carlisle has a long career ahead of him as a very talented athlete and quarterback. Um, when you look at it, though, how many true freshman quarterbacks step into Power 4 football and move the needle? Now, people are going to be quick to type out like Bear Bachmeier's doing it right now at BYU, Parker. But when you've watched BYU play and actually watched them play on Friday night on TV, because it was a fun TV game to watch on Friday night. Once I got to Houston and was in town, like watching them with some buddies and beverages and those kinds of things, it was very apparent to me in watching that game that Barrett Bachmeier is leading BYU at quarterback, sure, but they're really successful as a program because everything around him. He's got a ton of time to make decisions to throw the football. He's got very talented and extreme, like 6th-year guys that are 25 years old playing wide receiver. And then he's throwing dinks and dunks for big yards after catch, and then every now and then letting one just really rip because he's a big, strong guy. He's 6'2", 230. They're using that frame to their advantage as well. He wears number 47, and he looks like a number 47 as running around out there. And with all that working for him, they barely beat Colorado. They only beat West Virginia, which is in their 4th string quarterback, by 2 touchdowns. Yes, BYU is ranked. I think that's more about everything around Bear Bachmeier right now, right? And if that's your example of a freshman quarterback, I love a lot what Houston's got going on. They're not quite there in the surrounding stuff on the freshman quarterback yet either, right? True freshman quarterbacks rarely step in and move the needle or change things at the Power 4 level. That's just the jump, and that's just hard to do. Now, I will say, if you're going to have Conner Weigman out for an extended period of time, or you've got questions about if Zion can come in because Weigman has been hurt before, and you maybe didn't like what you saw him as a backup or whatever in this game as a staff. I don't think it's fair to Austin Carlisle to make his first snaps since playing against North Shore last November in a high school playoff game. You can't make his first snaps in live action suddenly coming out after sudden change, Connor's down, we need to put someone in, or sudden change, whichever quarterback is in is throwing a couple picks, we just want to go with someone else for a fresh series, right? That's not fair to him either. That's way too sudden. I think that if you're going to try to work that guy and work Carlisle in this, you need to have some sort of a package built in because he is an extremely talented athlete. He is incredibly fast. He can make guys miss an open field, right? To kind of work that to his advantage, get him comfortable, and you got to kind of stair step it. I will say, though, that he's going to be around for a while, and he's going to have time to develop. And I don't know. He gets 4 games before the red shirt gets torn. I don't know that tearing the red shirt is worth it when you've got Conner Weigman out there potentially. Now, if Conner Weigman's hurt and you need a true backup, that's a whole different situation, obviously. I do think that the part of the thing on Saturday was, as stagnant as the offense was, with the issues specifically being the pass rush from Texas Tech, I don't know that throwing a kid that just played, like I said, his last live action against North Shore High School and high school playoff game, and it was less than a calendar year ago. I don't know how fair that is to make that his first, welcome to the big leagues, kiddo, kind of moment, right? That's taking a rookie pitcher and putting it out there against prime Barry Bonds, right? That ain't fair. And I think that you need to set the kid up for success because, frankly, he deserves it. And you want to make sure he is set up for success because he's going to have a lot of success when it's his turn, right? And I think that's where I'm at on that one. Now, if that turn is later this year, you just got to do it right. And I don't think the Saturday night was going to be right on that one. Now, I will say all that to say that this is the issue of Houston having a quarterback is an overreaction. If like they just don't have good quarterback play, because Conner Weigman, that is, when he's not running for his dear life, has shown you that he can actually play the position pretty well. He's gotten better until the Tech game. He's gotten better each week, right? And I think that there's enough to build off of there. I think, again, like I said, with proper preparation and against the right opponents and with the right, like Deion Grace has won Big 12 games. Frankly, you can't say that about a lot of people who've been through the program before, right? It is not quite an overreaction, though. If the question is, you don't have a quarterback or you have a quarterback issue because of health, it does get interesting if Weigman is not healthy. I think they still find a way to win some games. I still think they still go bowling, all of that. But it certainly does get interesting. And that's a whole separate thing. I guess we won't find out until later in the week. But the issue of like, do they have anyone on the roster that can play a position? No, they do. He wears number 1, actually. And he's all right. We just got to make sure he's healthy and good to go. Now, I got one more reaction to respond to about the defense. We spent a lot of time on the offense today. One more on the defense as well. Before we get to that, today's show is brought to you by our buddies over at Square, because Square is your favorite neighborhood spot's favorite app. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood just the neighborhood. There are places that become the extension of home, whether it's sports bar dedicated to your favorite fan base, or best wings in town, or coffee shops, or sports, whatever the case is. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. I've been going with my favorite one of these is Conchinita, because it's a great story. They started an operation out of a truck back in 2016, running on Square. They're now a brick and mortar location across the freeway from the U of H, still running strong, still humming along, still running on Square as well. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. Go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. Before you do, don't forget to go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because NFL season's here. FanDuel has offers you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, the Texans are kind of picking things up, looking a little bit different. The Cougars themselves are already double-digit favorites going into next weekend. All kinds of ways to get on the action before the game, in the game, after the game. And if you're going up to Oklahoma, hey, Oklahoma's a different state. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Power Rangers locked on Coogs here. And I don't know. I think it's also an overreaction. And we're going to get to why I don't think this is that pejorative. But people acting like the defense held Texas Tech to 35 points. And I kind of get where they're coming from. Texas Tech is a very talented team. They had scored 67, 62, 45, and 34 points going into this game. And so 35 is at the low end of that. Sure, low end, that's great. And deep in the red zone, you made what the program calls 4-point plays, where you hold them to a field goal here or whatever, right? You make a play that keeps a red zone play from becoming a touchdown. It becomes a field goal instead. That saves you 4 points. You made a handful of those, sure. Those were super deep in the red zone. As far as the field goals go, yeah, you forced 7 of them. 7. That's a lot of field goals. And a couple of those were short field turnovers. Yeah. But the guy's longest make of his 5 makes was 33 yards. And bluntly, his 2 ones that had any real distance on them were both wide. There's a chance if you did the whole bend, not break thing earlier in the possession, he misses a lot more than 2 field goals. And you save even more of those points. Those 4-point plays become 7-point plays when you set it up outside of field goal range for this poor kicker, right? Whose leg is probably sore from kicking so many field goals today. Now, other things that had problems with the defense that I think are getting kind of swished under the rug because those 4-point plays saved those from being a bunch of touchdowns is that you did give up 2 different 100-yard rushers in this game. You gave up 350 yards through the air on 70% completions. And I think perhaps most damning, at least for what I thought we were as Houston Cougar football, at least where I thought we were with Willie Fritz and Houston Cougar football, and the defense we've had for a season and a half now, about to be a half now, is according to PFF, and they're not like the Bible, but they're usually closer right than wrong. PFF has Houston's having missed 15 tackles as a team on Saturday night. Now, when I got home on Sunday, I got home during nap, so I put the game on from the ESPN telecast. It was recorded, so I want to watch back and hear what they were saying. And I sped through some stuff to kind of like get to the plays, not the in between plays and whatever. But I have to say that 15 seems right, if not on the low end. And part of that might be because honestly, some of those tackles were like a missed tackle on a 6-yard hook that turned into a 26-yard run afterwards, right? And that feels like a lot more than one missed tackle, right? But ultimately, I thought we're past this. I thought one of the remarkable things about Willie Fritz was able to come in and through the transfer portal and through good scheme and it felt like the defense was past some of this stuff, and this feels like a setback. And I don't ever want to feel comfortable holding someone to 550 yards of offense. That's ridiculous. And again, I get that 35 points is low for Texas Tech, and they're a top 10 team in the country right now, and all of that. But ultimately, they had over 90 plays on offense. And your job as a defense is to get the offense the ball back, whether it's with turnover, 3 and out, etc. If you're on the field for 90 plays, you're not doing that. You're not. And I don't I don't mean this to like be this forever and time on the team or anything, but I'm not going to sit here and talk, well, the defense held them at 35. That's not going to be a take of mine, I think, moving forward with this game, because you don't ever hold someone to 35. I, I that's what Harden averaged that anyway. Anyway, you don't hold someone to 35. That's just not how things goes. Now, I think part of the problem with this to me is, or at least where my frustrations come from, I should say, is look, Houston as a rebuilding project, a year and a half into the rebuild, still has a lot of things they have to overcome. And when you play those ranked teams, especially teams ranked in the top 10, those things kind of get put under a magnifying glass. Your offensive line protecting the passer, making quick decisions because you're on the run at quarterback, whatever, right? Those kinds of things tend to happen. And that's just where you are. You're rebuilding. You're building it back up. And I still think you're ahead of schedule for what it's worth. With all those things you're having to work through and overcome, it felt like the defense wasn't one of them. And I still feel like the defense isn't supposed to be one of them. It certainly has not been one of those things you're trying to overcome. Missed tackles, missed coverages, those are self-inflicted. And this defense is too talented for that. It just is. And I like those guys, some of the coolest guys, and super smart. Super smart. And they know it. I'm not saying anything they don't know, right? This is self-inflicted. And I guess I close on. There's really only one nice thing about holding a team, air quotes, to 35 because of a bunch of self-inflicted things like missed tackles or missed coverage on the running back angle route or out of the backfield or whatever, right? The only nice thing about self-inflicted issues like that are that it's Houston doing it to Houston. And if Houston's doing it to Houston, Houston can theoretically also stop doing it to Houston, right? If you're self-inflicting, that means you can at some point theoretically stop it and keep it from happening again. Now, Tech is good. They practice too. Their scholarships too. They got NIL dollars too. Lots of those. All that is very true. I'm not saying Houston was going to ever pitch a shutout in this game. That's not what I'm saying. But man, 35, 35 feels like some of that was on us, huh? And it didn't have to be, and it's certainly not from a unit that I've expected that out of. Certainly not under this staff, and that I think was surprising and disappointing. And so I get angry when I hear people say it, posting and commenting, and ESPN leading, kind of held them to 35 there. Like, no, that's not going to be an acceptable way to look at that one. Anyway, if you got other things you think are overreactions, tell me in the comments down below. I usually am sad right after the game, and today got angry. Maybe that's better for show. I don't know. Tell me what you think. We're going to be moving on to Oklahoma State. I promise. But this one was different. So we're going to talk about it a little differently. So we're going to be moving on to Oklahoma State soon. Squadrons this week, crossing over with Cody this week. All kinds of fun stuff on the show, not just me getting pissed. So make sure you hit subscribe to the bell so you know we're live. Locked On Coogs, primarily Locked On podcast. Now we need your team every day. Go Coogs.